The best.
Mmm.
Or worst food.
Ah.
What I ate. Check it out at the best or worst food, what I ate.blogspot.com.
Sort of break it down like this.
Oh, fantastic. He is one of the biggest meatballs on Twitter.
I'm an idiot.
No, that's okay.
Nice to meet you. I'm Mike.
Could you please take back Tim Tebow?
Oh, awesome.
Take college football in touch.
I don't understand where these questions are coming from, Tom. That's about it for Manager's Corner. Go yourself and with your show coming up next on the Baltimore Oriole Baseball Network.
I made a note about college sports, and the note just says college sports in general.
Whammy!
Can't do it.
The changes that have happened in the Cub organization are multifold.
Boogie boogie. Great stuff. Welcome back to Chicago Sports Update here on Intrepid Audio Productions. Just to all the listeners, thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Chicago Sports Update here on IAP Podcast. This is Matt.
And this is Brandon.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's see. Last week was quiet because there's football going on. Not much really going on as far as football. Otherwise, we're just gearing up for the Super Bowl. All this stupid weather talk about snow bowls and everything. Super Bowl man. And the kind of alliteration that they have there with Washington State as well as Colorado State. So, other than that, the Blackhawks have not really been hitting on all cylinders.
No, well, it depends on who they play. It really seems like they're kind of just playing to their competition. Well, at least the results show that way. They've beaten some of the better teams they've played recently, like Anaheim and Boston, and they've lost to teams like Detroit, the Winnipeg Jets, and who was the other one that was... I can't think of it right now.
The Devils?
Yeah, the Devils. And it just seemed like they really did outplay Winnipeg. I mean, they destroyed them in shots on goal, but they didn't score, which really some people forget that that's actually what counts in hockey.
Especially the Blackhawks.
And so they lost to Winnipeg, even though they probably outplayed them. And it seems like Crawford is, I don't want to say to blame for the loss, but he didn't help. He really didn't help them succeed in their goal for winning.
Yeah, he's had a rough stretch. He's only won once since coming back, which was, I think, since November 29th. I believe is the correct date. Hockey fans, please feel free to correct me on that. But he's had a rough stretch since coming back, especially. And it's not really been easy for him, especially. Maybe it's just me being hockey stupid. But while we were big advocates of Corey Crawford and letting him have the opportunity to get the experience and go through the playoffs and become a Stanley Cup winning goalie and putting our faith in him, there are so many times that we'll be frustrated with his, I don't want to say his lack of confidence, but just not executing when he's supposed to, giving up bad rebounds, giving up soft goals, just flat out missing at times. He's played well enough to get to overtime plenty of times and get to the shootout, but then when somebody gets on him last week, especially against the Red Wings, they went high stick side seemingly every time and were able to score.
And we remember that from last year. That was kind of throughout the playoffs. Teams knew that, his you go high glove side or high stick side, and it's he gets in this thing where he couldn't stop anything with his glove last year during the playoffs. And finally he seemed to actually catch on soon enough. He settled himself down and, became what most people thought was the MVP of the playoffs. I think right now it's almost like he's not playing that poorly, but anytime the defense gives up a puck, he gives up the goal. And rarely does he ever kind of save his defense. Like the defense has to be perfect, otherwise he's giving up that goal. Whereas
Right.
the really good goalies, you know, they make saves that save the team. Like, wow, yeah, that was a bad turnover in our zone, but thank God he's back there to make that save. Crawford hasn't done that this year at all.
Yeah, and unfortunately, just everyone, it's been this sort of like sputtering jalopy, and that's not saying I'm trying to chastise and shortchange what is a tremendous core group of talent that the Blackhawks have, but when they don't score and when they don't execute and they turn over and make really stupid mental mistakes, they play tight. They don't play the way that they're supposed to play, with confidence, a puck possession team, and as made famous by the by I guess the nighttime show on our favorite radio station, they play with TBS. And if you don't know what TBS is, aside from being very funny, it's tight booty syndrome. It's like, oh gosh, they play nervous and they play trying to be too perfect or too cute, and that's not how the Blackhawks need to play and how they should play. That's not their game.
Yeah,
and
I wouldn't say it's everyone on the team, but for the most part, definitely. And certain guys, you can even see it more. It seems like when they get down, Oduya becomes like one of the worst players in the league. Like, he makes so many mistakes. When they're winning, he will keep it going, and he might be the best defensive player the Hawks have. He seems to be one guy in particular that's really up and down. When they're losing, he seems definitely to get that TBS, but it's not very funny.
Yeah, I agree. And it's and Kane not scoring goals doesn't help things. That almost makes things tremendously worse. That does not make Duncan Keith look like a Norse caliber defenseman. When that offensive pressure isn't there and they're not executing, or they're making that extra pass, it's bad. And I think that's the worst thing that they can possibly do, is not pass. I think it was the Red Wings game where they went into overtime and were on the power play. So they were up 4-3 as far as skaters go. And they took maybe an entire 2 shots on goal with 150 remaining on the power play. That was pathetic. And I said to my cousin, who's a much better hockey fan and much more knowledgeable hockey fan than I am, I said, they deserve to lose the game because they did not put the puck on goal. I mean, how many times have we seen just garbage goals get in? No matter who's behind net, who's in net, even Crawford. It's like, if they know, other teams know, put the puck on goal, and something good might happen. A stick might be there, a skate might be there. It may go in off of their own man, and heck, we got a goal out of it. So it's frustrating, and I don't like seeing that. I think that they're a better team and should execute better, especially when it comes to the snipers that they have. Put it on goal. Don't, I don't know. That's the best analysis that I can possibly give. I know it's not really in-depth, mind-blowing analysis, but sorry, it's going to have to do.
I think part of it's just puck movement. During that overtime period, it wasn't just, not shooting because they were passing the puck around. I mean, they weren't even passing the puck around. No one was skating. They all kind of just sat there, a few passes here and there, looking like, okay, well, that already closed up. They, Sharp would give it back to Keith. Well, there's no lane there. Keith would seem to hold the puck for a while, maybe too long. He'd give it up to Sharp again. Sharp would wait, look for a shot, nothing there, no lanes. And it just seemed like no one was skating. They, were all around like the perimeter basically, and it lacked imagination. It was aggravating to watch because it was like watching paint dry. And hockey should not be that way. Of all the sports, hockey should always have some sort of movement, and the movement just stopped. The Hawks just stopped. That was definitely the most aggravating thing I've seen all year by the Hawks.
So, and they ended up calling up Brandon Peary again from Rockford, and we'll see what happens with that. I don't like moves that are there to quote unquote shake up because You just need to change you need to change the scenery just for the change of scenery. I don't believe that's advantageous for your club, especially when we all know what Brandon Peary is at this stage. And he's an adequate. He's to me kind of like a third or fourth line winger. He's not a world beater at this point. He's not ready to take over for Kane. Not that.
No, but what he
Not that
can
I'm
do
saying.
is he can move the puck, like I was just saying.
Yeah.
And the guy that looks like, I don't know who's going to get sent down, but the guy that was benched the other night was Bickle. And Bickle hasn't really done anything. I've heard some people say that they think maybe he's hurt. Maybe Q is sending a message, whether he's hurt or not, like you need to step up your game. Whatever it is, I don't know if he'll be the one sent down or did they even. I heard Peary came up. I haven't heard anyone get sent down yet. Have you?
Yeah, no, I haven't, and I don't know what the corresponding move is. I wouldn't be surprised if it is someone going on, injured reserve or something, a short stint on IR or something like that. I don't know, or whatever their equivalent is of a DL.
No, yeah,
But,
they call it the IR. It's not like the NFL's IR where you're on the IR, you're done for the year. The way they work it's similar to the DL in baseball, but they call it the IR. So it's
yeah, that's what I figured. I didn't hear it. I don't know what it is. If it is Bickle spending some time on that, okay. They have 6 games here before the start of the Olympic hockey, which I just, like I said before last week, if one NHL player, I don't care if it's from the Blackhawks, I'll be even more furious. But if it's any NHL player gets blown up, no, I'm done with it. Don't even send them. Don't even try to tell me to send them. It's just not worth it. But that aside, some of them need, I guess, a mental break. And I don't know what it is with this organization. And maybe this is something that happens across every hockey team. But recently, from what I've been hearing on some of the different shows, that the Blackhawks go into this funk at about this time of the season, or after this many games are played, or after this percentage of the season is over. Last year we saw it. Granted, we shouldn't be complaining much. It was a President's Cup winning team. They went into a little bit of a funk, towards the quote-unquote dog days of the season. So I can't really complain that much. But before, this is kind of what happens. They kind of go into this funk, and whether they pull themselves out of it or not, really come back to form, come back strong, that kind of makes or breaks the rest of the season for them and into the playoffs. So I'm not trying to sound all Debbie Downer. I think it's but the biggest concern right now is that the Western Conference is so hyper competitive, and
that's what makes it scary.
Yeah, there's only 1 point separating them from a number 2 seed in the conference to, I think, like a number 4 seed.
Yeah, especially the way they're working the seeds this year, which is, you need to take like an hour-long class to figure it out.
Yeah, we haven't spent that time. We haven't done the continuing ed for that yet. So,
and you're right about the Hawks. 2 years ago, after 48 games, they had the most points in the NHL, and then they went on their 9-game losing streak, and then like 17 out of 18 games or something, like something ridiculous. And they went all the way from the 1 seed to an 8 seed in a matter of 3 weeks. And you just hope that this isn't a repeat issue of that. They had the shortest offseason by any major sports team in American major sports history. Could that have a factor in this? It's not like they look tired. They didn't look tired against Winnipeg. They just didn't get it done. It's kind of, we've talked about the weird hockey things where you get a hot goaltender. You're playing against a hot goaltender. You lose no matter how well you played. You defensively, you played excellent, but the puck bounces a weird way, and oops, you give up the goal. Hockey is real weird, real random. Actually, kind of brings up to a point I've been thinking about for a long time.
Okay.
I'm so tired of NHL hardcore fans telling me that that the Stanley Cup is the hardest championship to win. I don't know what makes it the hardest to win. It might be the hardest sport to play, but the odds of winning are the same in the NHL as it is in the NBA. Now, maybe it's more random. The playoffs are more random. Just like, guess what? MLB is pretty random. You could have you could win 114 games like Seattle Mariners and not have a chance in the playoffs. Kind of like hockey. The seeds almost don't really matter, do they? So don't tell me hockey is the hardest, because you know what? Any 8 seed can win the championship. That doesn't sound too hard. All you got to do is get in the playoffs and you could win it.
Yeah, and like basketball, that's a little bit more. That's tremendously more difficult
because if you're the 3 seed, sorry, you ain't good enough.
especially right now in the East. Oh gosh. Oh. And hockey. Even the most of the 2000s with the West. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no prayer.
Yeah, if you're not the Lakers or the Spurs in the West, you're not winning. If you weren't the Bulls for a while, you weren't winning. Seems pretty difficult to me. You got to be that one team.
Yeah, I guess I could see what they mean as far as what the avid, hockey bleeding people do, and how they view it. I can understand it because I think they do have to overcome, teams have to overcome occasional randomness, and that one moment where your fourth line just may not be in position against the other team's fourth line, and the goalie chokes and gives up a very, very soft goal. Okay? And then, then, hey, you're out of the playoffs. I mean, we've seen the East have their 8 seeds upset, I think, in the past couple of years. We've seen that.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Yeah, Washington's been upset.
Philadelphia was the 7 seed when they played the Hawks in the Cup.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know why, but it's seemingly much more... it's much more of like a random hockey thing in the East, and the West is kind of like an NBA style where you're seeing the top teams compete and win at
They even know, because the Kings were the 8 seed and they won it all.
Oh, you're right, they were. I'm thinking that they were better than they were. Shoot.
Yeah, it was because it was then they just talked about Jonathan Quick, he got hot and that was it.
Yeah, he did get hot. Yeah, but then the past couple of years, I guess the Kings were last year. Year before that, we saw Vancouver, who was a President's Cup winning team. Thankfully, they choked and burned their city down. The Hawks
we're all
last
better
year.
For it.
Yes, we are. We certainly are. So
Barry Rosner on next.
I love him. He's so great. But that being said, I don't know. I don't know what the explanation is, and I don't even think hockey knows. The funny thing is, I can listen to the NHL Network and watch the NHL Network, and get my Dateline hockey on, and pop a nice thick hockey chubby on it. But in the end, it's all this sort of seemingly grit, passion, fire, practice, be in the right place type commentary. I don't know, maybe they've been in the dark and away from the spotlight of real analysis for far too long, so that hasn't evolved. And hopefully it does evolve and we do get a little bit more and get more answers.
Well, I think part of the problem is at least the color commentators are former players, and they've been hit in the head way too many times.
Yeah, too many fights. Yeah. Oof. Don't get me wrong. Some analysis is good. There are a few good commentators out there. That's not to say that everyone's garbage. I almost find the play-by-play gives you they give you better insight as to the dynamics of the game, especially on radio, where you have to completely rely on them.
Yeah, actually, play-by-play in hockey is it's got to be the hardest to accomplish, and they seem to do it better than anyone else, though. It's very impressive. Yeah. And then on the other spectrum, I think the color commentators, like you are kind of alluding to, just Well, they need to maybe start a fight here to get that kind of stuff. Just not what we want to hear.
Exactly. I mean, I think the Blackhawks have a tremendous tandem as far as their radio call is concerned, and a lot of people are saying that their that their television team is one of the best, just from a national perspective. And I'm sorry, I don't need hockey's version of Harry Carey and this and Olchek, who never won anything. Who didn't.
Well, I mean, Olchek he's the number one color analyst on NBC Sports. He does all the number one national games. Okay,
take him. Honestly,
okay.
just take him.
I mean,
NHL.
But, Phil Simms is the number one NFL broadcaster on CBS. So it doesn't always mean that you're really the best. It's just maybe the biggest name. And
Tim McCarver was your flagship color commentator.
As good as the Yankees were in the first half of the game, that is
how bad they were in the second half of the game. Oh gosh, and that's up to. And I'm not trying to just take a cheap shot at Olchek. I get that he is teaching he's teaching a fan base that oftentimes does not want to learn. And when I say that, the Chicago fan base is woefully stupid on many different fronts.
I don't think it's the Chicago fans. I think it's hockey fans.
And I there's times that he does see something and he does teach you the game. But honestly, it's almost so blatant in hockey when just to have the equivalent of like blown coverage, quote unquote, or getting behind a defender. It's so obvious at times that it's not even funny. It's kind of like, well, yeah, look, all he has to do is, put his head up and see, hey, there's nobody over here. We're going to get the puck back. I'm open. Pass it up to me up the boards. And sometimes what can be thought of as hard-hitting analysis is kind of like, is just, are you paying attention? And when you start to see that and say, hey, look, yeah, he's beating his defender right now, or he's catching his defender flat-footed, just going all Randall Cobb on him. You can see that. It is clear. So I don't know. I'm not trying to rail against him and say, oh, he's garbage. Okay, if he is as good as you say, okay, I just need to try to watch and understand and listen better, I guess, and that's fine. I'm willing to put that effort in. But I think Troy Murray does a much better job on the radio.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right. Let's see. What do you think is going on with the Bulls right now? Recently, Carmelo Anthony has been kind of dropping hints that either he or his agent are dropping hints that, the Bulls may be in play. Right now, I don't think they have the salary cap room to deal with it and deal with a max contract for him. And I don't think he's going to be solving all of the Bulls' problems at this point. Certainly helps, but, oof.
Well, that's kind of my question would be, who would you get rid of? Contracts, like what makes sense? I don't know what would work. The only real big contract left that you'd want to get rid of would be what, Boozer? Are the Knicks really going to bring that aboard? I don't know. Like Taj doesn't make that much, right? Because I would trade.
He made a very team friendly deal.
Right.
I remember.
So I mean, I don't know if that would work. I would love to see Melo here. I think with a healthy Derrick Rose, if we ever do see that again, along with Melo and Thibodeau coaching, along with some of the other pieces that are around, I don't know if you can jump over the Pacers and the Heat, but I definitely think you're a lot closer, and possibly you could. Maybe you could. We would have to see. You'd probably have to get rid of some key opponents, though, components, I should say, to bring on Melo. I mean, you're not going to probably have a Butler here anymore, maybe a Taj here. And like I said, I don't know what you could get rid of to make that trade equal. So I don't see it happening, but I sure would like it.
Yeah, I guess the best way that I could say, I would have liked it when we talked about it before, back when Melo was with the Nuggets, that's when I think the deal would have been tremendously better.
But no one wanted to get rid of Luol Deng.
Nobody wanted to. Yeah, you're absolutely right. How good would that look right now?
Real good.
I'm not saying the Bulls would be competing for a title. Not saying that in the slightest. But they're a lot closer, and they would have had a couple years they would have had that year to make adjustments. If they brought in Melo right now, and considering the pieces that they would have to give up at this point, you're looking at a team very similar to what the Heat were the first year of the Big Three. A team that's just those three, and whatever half dead, near 40 bodies they can have there.
Which is what the Bulls kind of have, with Heinrich.
True, yeah.
So,
True, good point. But you're not looking at a clean, polished, well-running, well-oiled machine like what we've seen the past couple of years with the Heat. That was one of the biggest problems with the Heat for that first year, was that they didn't have any depth. It was just the LeBron.
They're not even right now a well-oiled machine, but they're still probably going to win it all.
Yeah, it's just having enough support. And right now, their bums are better than our bums, is the best way to look at it.
I wouldn't even say that.
Well, I just think the role players. I think having LeBron makes up for so much.
That's what I'm saying. You take LeBron. Look at that roster. Take LeBron off that roster, even with the other two of the big three. I put that in quotes.
Well, big two now.
Right? Like even with Wade and Bosh, that roster looks like crap right now. Like Bosh has been kind of, his game to me has fallen off. I don't know if it's because for so long now he's had to kind of be the third option, where he somehow has lost some skill doing that. But he's not as good as he used to be. Wade is just is kind of like what Rose is going to be. Just too many miles, and just will never be the same. He'll show flashes. Wade will show flashes where you're like, wow, this guy still has it. Wade still has it. And then he'll disappear for a while. And the rest of the roster, what? I mean, there's, I'll take the Bulls roster over that. With the way it is, without Rose, take LeBron off. I'll take the Bulls roster. Especially with Thibodeau coaching.
Oh yeah. Yes. I just find it interesting. A couple weeks ago, we were here. The biggest story was, is Thibodeau going to be going to New York? Are the Bulls going to trade Thibodeau to the Knicks? Which, if that was the case, I am absolutely blowing up and rescinding any credit that I previously gave this front office. I've been very leery. Well, I gave him credit for trading Deng.
Oh, okay.
and understanding their situation. But getting rid of one of the better coaches in the league at this moment doesn't make you better.
Well, he is ruining the season.
Well, yeah, I get it. But it's too tough. Man,
I wish we could bench.
He's in a
I wish we could bench him. Like send him away. Bring in another coach to coach the rest of the season. Just tank it. And then once Rose is healthy, bring back Thibodeau, because that's when you actually have a chance at doing something. With Rose.
What's Vinny Del Negro doing?
He'd be the ideal coach right now.
Oh gosh, just a goober. Just a total goober out of his depth. Just man. I don't know. It's frustrating. I think Jordan spoiled a lot of basketball fans here in Chicago with him being as absolutely great as he was. He spoiled so many fans, so much so that no one, I don't think, the majority of the fans, I believe, were not prepared for the post-Jordan era of rebuilding and what it takes to be a competitive NBA franchise I guess a world championship caliber franchise.
Definitely, we weren't ready for Ron Mercer being the best player on the team for 2 years.
I remember in the early 2000s being shocked if the Bulls could win 10 games.
I don't remember exactly what year, but it was one of the years where, yeah, you didn't know they were going to win 10 games.
2000.
And I remember I think it was the second win of back-to-back wins, probably the only time they did it. And people were upset that Eddie Robinson did at the end of the game, he did a highlight dunk, threw the ball, threw the ball against the backboard and did a dunk. Everyone's like, you're winning 8 games and you're doing that. And I thought it was great because that was the only time they were going to be able to celebrate.
True. Very, very true. I think it was the 2001-2002 season that happened.
Yeah, actually that does sound about right. And yeah, it was
it was so bad. It was so absolutely bad. But I don't get it because they've had opportunities to come back and bounce back and be able to be better. It's just not there. And unfortunately, well, they're getting too many draft pick losses, and I don't like that. Lottery losses, I guess is the best way to put it.
Tank losses. They're especially with the NBA draft. Guys come out so early and talent is so watered down. Really, anything after the top, really the top 4, but I'll say top 6 is 95% probably you're making the wrong pick. You'll obviously there's going to be 1 or 2 guys out there where you're going to be like, wow, he was drafted 25th and he's a superstar. But for the most part, that doesn't happen anymore. It used to happen all the time in the NBA.
Yeah.
It does not happen anymore. Probably never will happen anymore. So you really want a top 5 pick, and the Bulls, they keep winning, and that's just not gonna work for them.
It's not gonna work for them. But here's the sad thing, though. I think a lot of these picks now aren't panning out. There's just this. I don't know what it is. There's just this desert of talent over the past couple of years in these early draft picks that just aren't panning out. You're seeing guys not live up to the expectation of a top 5 draft pick. Was it Kyrie Irving is in danger of getting out of the league, I think?
No, I think Kyrie Irving's good. He's
maybe that's just an overestimation.
I think if he was playing somewhere else, you'd be hearing a lot more of him. I think he's pretty good. I just, like I said, guys are coming out early. They're probably not prepared, and teams don't have time to develop them. It's not as win now as the NFL, but it's, the top teams are competitive enough where it's destroying franchises. Because do you want to go see an Orlando Magic game? No, you don't. So not only do they not have the money to, put a team out there right now, a competitive team, they're not going to have it again next year because no one is going to the game because they had to draft a young kid. And it's just, I'm just using them as an example, but it's like
right.
80% of NBA is that way. And some of these teams are even making the playoffs because there is so much bad out there. So their picks are even worse. I'm not going to say I don't want them to change the rules so that teams like the Heat and what the Knicks try to do can't happen. I love the fact of teams of superstars getting together and being like, okay, we can all hate you now. Tell me it wasn't fun rooting against the Heat and all the championships. Even
I had a countdown going.
It was very fun. And to the point where I actually kind of started rooting for him because there was there was so much hatred against him. Like, some of it I thought was a little misguided. So I kind of almost became not a fan, but maybe a Heat apologist a little bit. So it makes it fun. Maybe the regular season isn't fun, but come playoff time, it's fun to have a team like the Heat, a team, the top teams. If the Knicks just could get their act together, they have all the talent in the world. They tried to do what the Heat did. They just failed miserably at it.
Yeah. You're right. And I think right now the worst thing that's going on is the wasted year that's going on with high school talent that isn't able to come out immediately and hone their craft in the right way. You're seeing, yes, some good players coming out of some very competent programs. Wherever, Kentucky's coach, I can't think of his name right now, Calipari.
Yeah.
Calipari knows how to scout NBA quality talent, no matter where he goes, and that's fine. And he's like the Nick Saban of college basketball, where he can.
I would say he's more like the Pete Carroll, but go on.
Okay, I mean, just in the way to the ability to identify it early, get it for that year, highlight it, showcase it, and put it out in the NBA.
And then leave to another school before infractions.
Exactly.
That's why I'm saying he's the Pete Carroll.
Right. Did he leave Kentucky?
No, but I mean he left. Where was he before? Was it UConn?
Oh, that sounds right, because they had a little run.
And then it was like, oh, we're too good here. Let me move on.
Yeah, and it's not, to me, honestly, I'm not interested in listening to the idea of, when they go to college, they learn the fundamentals of the game. I genuinely don't believe that, simply because I think the pros are better at teaching you the fundamentals at that level and creating the professional environment that those players need to succeed at the high level of the NBA. So it's kind of like, here, spin your wheels, waste this year, get some unneeded miles on you, or unneeded minutes on your feet, without you really developing. So I think the college game will survive. It'll just be, you'll see, for the Big East, it'll become the Big White East, or the Big White, because you're going to see these adequate white guys that are able to either happen to be really tall.
I'm dumb. He was at Memphis. I'm sorry for cutting you off. He was at Memphis because he coached Derrick Rose. How can I forget that?
I couldn't recall if he was at Memphis or Kentucky.
Yeah, he was at Memphis. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. Anyways, go on.
That's right. But just being able to, the college game is a completely different ball game. It's less. I don't like it as much, and you're still going to be able to have those sort of, quote, Cinderella stories, or those wacky rough and tumble defense fundamentals teams that dribble the ball, pass well, and take good 3-point shots. I think that's always going to be there. I just don't think the NBA flash is something that's needed in the college game.
Well, if it was in the college game, I think it would help, because then you would have less of that Princeton style, kind of basketball. But I mean, I like college basketball for what it's worth, but that's not really your point. I actually do kind of like the one and done rule, where they do have to at least take 1 year of college. I don't think it hurts their game. I mean, the college game is certainly closer to the NBA than the high school game is, and look how long it took them to become something coming straight out of high school. Jermaine O'Neal, he ended up finally finding his game, but it took like 7 years before he turned out to be anything, because he came out of high school. Guys like Jonathan Bender never turned out at all. So I think it can hurt you by just jumping right into the NBA. Not everyone is a Kevin Garnett, LeBron James, some of the others, Kobe Bryant. But so I just, if you go back to that rule where you can take them out of high school, I would just hope that NBA teams would be a little more wise, not take a Eddie Curry, not take a
I
Tyson
think
Chandler.
they
Tyson
will.
Chandler's another one. Yeah, he ended up being okay, but it took him a long time to get it.
I think they are better. I think NBA scouting has improved dramatically. I genuinely believe that. I think they're more likely to hit rather than miss. That's not to say that they're going to find a hidden gem at pick 24, but I think they're better able to, I don't know, identify their role and what they need to be and who, what piece they can play on what sort of team. So, not necessarily picking the best athlete or just the tallest guy, which is probably will get you through the first 10 picks. After that, then I think you're going to have to start to find and narrow your options down to being either, a guy that needs will benefit, who's a great athlete, but will benefit tremendously from the, NBA Europe, the European League, the D League if necessary, or tremendous tutelage where they can get that. So, or you just draft the guy that dropped from, the white guy that's 6'3" and is a professional long shooter.
Yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of the Europeans are taking that role over now, and then you don't even see those guys for a few years because they have contracts in their European leagues. So
right,
it's just
like
it's
the
just,
Bulls, like the next
right,
Bulls big pick.
right.
So
I think it's just different now. I don't know. I think there's just less really good players available now.
yeah, I think you're right. I think there is a talent gap. It's not. I don't think it's a question of finances. It's just a talent gap that's out there, and we're in a tremendous heyday where there's a very, very few tremendously world class players that are in the NBA, and just kind of middling level. So well, we'll see. Oh boy, you got anything else regarding NBA or Blackhawks?
No, not really.
All right, want to take it away for your baby here?
For those of you that liked it last year and maybe you didn't listen and don't know anything about it, last year we did our first annual sports movie madness. Basically, it was a NCAA 64 team tournament, March Madness tournament style of your favorite sports movies. We put them in a bracket and you vote on the winners and they advance. We're doing the same thing this year with a little bit of a twist. Matt, you're the one that brought up this idea. It's a great idea. This year it is going to be the characters, the athletes in those particular movies. I'm very excited about this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Actually, I think it's going to be more fun than last year's. And last year's was great. This is a kind of a cool twist. Often you see lists of the best sports movies of all time online, and you can find that anywhere. So I think what we did is been done last year. This is definitely, from what I know, has never been done. There have been tournaments for the greatest athletes of all time in real life. There have been tournaments for movies. We're not the first to do it. I've seen it before. I don't think anyone's ever done this, at least not that I've seen. So I'm excited about it. We'll have more announcements about it next week. That's it's exciting. Do you have anything more to add about it? Am I forgetting anything?
No, not that I can think of. Yeah, we're very excited to do this. So if you have any sort of nominations, ones that you want on, maybe it's an obscure reference. Of course, the Rockies, the Apollo Creeds, those will be on there. I think we can even accept Rudy because I find him to be sort of a fictional character. So I think we'll even allow that. But if you're not understanding what we're doing, yeah, it is more so along the line. It is real athletes. It could be athletes that were in a movie. It could be Ed Obradovich from Brian's song.
But it won't
but chances are he's not going to get it. We're looking more like Billy D. Williams playing Gale Sayers, or Keanu Reeves playing Shane Falco from The Replacements, or Johnny Utah from Point Break. Yeah, it's those sorts of characters. Anyone that's been in a sports movie, that actor. Woody Harrelson's character from White Men Can't Jump. The various Wesley Snipes roles that he's played in sports movies. That's what we're looking at. So if you have nominations or entrants that you'd like to see, and certainly we'll absolutely take those under advisement. We want you guys, we want the listeners to participate. So please feel free to send us any nominations that you may have from yourself to our email address at iappodcasts@gmail.com. I'm sure voting will be very similar to Twitter as well as Facebook. So this is your chance. Get involved, get active, and we'll have some fun with this.
Definitely. We all can't wait.
So, all right. You got anything else?
No. Next week we'll talk about the Super Bowl. There's not really a whole lot going on after that.
Who do you think will win?
Who do I think will win? I think Seattle will win. I'm pulling for Denver, but I think with the Seattle's defense, possible bad weather, just to me everything favors Seattle in this game.
Yeah, the best way that I've put it to one of my coworkers was I said, my heart and head think Denver will win, but my eyes say Seattle. And oftentimes, I think you really kind of have to go with the eye test. And with what we saw 2 weeks ago in Seattle was tough. that was imposing. It was formidable, and we'll see what Denver has. I say my head goes with Denver because Peyton Manning is the best to ever play the position. He's such a technical quarterback genius. And I've said before, you give him 2 weeks to prepare and he will be precision deadly. He will be surgeon precision deadly. Except with this defense, I don't know I don't know. That's such a wild card. That's such it's such a factor that with their physicality, their size, and their just all-out dedication to defense is remarkable.
The one thing that I think Denver can utilize in the game is they can put out 5 receiver sets, and I think that can slow down, Seattle's defense a little because, and I think they're going to have to, otherwise you're putting their. Peyton Manning will find someone when you do that. Otherwise, if you're doing 2 or 3 receiver sets, I think Seattle's going to be all over that. You're probably not going to be able to run against them very well. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure Manning will have something up his sleeve. But overall, I think Seattle's D is going to be a little bit too much. They don't make mistakes on offense. I think that's going to be the key.
See, I think this is the one time that I think their offense is more susceptible to being.
Yeah, it is a big stage. It is a big stage.
Yeah, I really do. That's not saying that I think Russell Wilson's garbage. I just don't. I'm not. I think he may be out of his depth.
I can't think Russell Wilson's garbage and a bad guy.
Drowns puppies, kicks kids. No, I just don't. I don't think that they can lean on. Say Marshall Faulk. That's wrong. Marshawn Lynch.
They definitely can't lean on Marshall Faulk.
Yeah, no one can to be that force. Walter Payton couldn't do it. He did it enough, but I don't think he kind of really even didn't do it in the in the '85 Super Bowl. So, yeah,
he just didn't score a touchdown. I mean, he was still pretty much the offense.
True. Yeah, but
William Perry
they were
scored the touchdown. Give it to that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He earned it.
Give it to the fat guy. Yeah. so, yeah, I don't know. I don't think Seattle's defense is as prolific as that '85 Bears team. Certainly, I don't even think it's close to that 2000 Ravens team. Excuse me. So it's tough to say. It'll certainly be a better Super Bowl matchup than I guess I had anticipated going into championship weekend. But it'll still be fun. The football game will be just as good as the fanfare, I would say.
The Super Bowl in the last 6 years have been excellent. Really good games. I suspect it'll be another great game.
I liked the Colts Saints one. I really could care less about the Giants and New England when they.
Maybe you cared less, but the game came. It was an excellent game.
True, they were good games. Last year just angered me.
Yeah, well,
that angered me so much. And that goes back to I hate Joe Flacco. I should say I hate him. I'm not a big Joe Flacco fan, man. That's nothing new to anyone that's listening to the show. So.
I'm not a fan of him. I didn't want Ray Lewis to win another title. But whatever.
I agree. So, all right, you got anything else?
I believe that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Be safe, have fun, and look forward to us next week where we announce the 64 candidates that could win this year's second annual Sports Movie Madness.
Thanks for listening to Chicago Sports Update here on Intrepid Audio Productions. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching IAP Podcasts, all one word. We make it easy to listen to us at home or on the go because you can subscribe to us via iTunes or on your browser at Spreaker.com. Listen to us on the go with the Stitcher Radio app, available for all smartphones. Want to interact with the team directly? Leave any questions, comments, or feedback you may have at our Facebook page. You can also like our page to know about special events, shows topics, and listen directly on our page to new and past episodes. Feel free to email us anytime at iappodcasts@gmail.com. IAP Podcasts, pioneering the best in independent podcasting.
Hello, listeners. Once you're done catching up with everything Intrepid Audio Productions has to offer, check out some other great independent podcast shows like the Knights of the Video Game Table podcast. Jeremy, Patrick, and Frank do great work, and it's worth your time to check them out. They're part of the Nerdgasm Network, where you can find other cool shows, including the Super Budget Brothers, the Nerdgasm Network Video Game Podcast, and all other shows, which can be found at extraplay.info. Give them a listen, because good, honest work can be hard to find.